Jonas.
Johannes.
Johannes, there
Sorry.
we go. I will never learn how to pronounce this name. Nice to see you all. Meiko Prukil, nice to see you. Rafael, nice to see you. Jasper D, which is your partner.
Yeah.
Here we go. Study with Dealing, nice to see you too. And we have as well, of course, Bird Potato saying hi inside work, Mikey. Chat, today we are going to talk about the action pattern, okay? Because you just did a great talk about the action pattern. So I want to know everything that you think about that pattern and how did you come up using it, and if it was a thing in the past maybe for you.
Yeah.
And you actually have a bunch of slides, so maybe we can talk a little bit about them. I'm going to click here on coding, and they'll be fun. So, by the way, chat, in case you don't know, Past PHP's browser test just came out. Okay.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Past PHP just came out, and you can start using it if you want. We do have the screen display not being displayed correctly. So what I will do here is just click on this beautiful button to do it right there. There we go. Past PHP v4 is out. If you guys want to try Past, go to the pastphp.com website, done by Nuno Guerra, a great front-end developer. Thank you for this, and let's jump into the action pattern. So I'm going to show people your slides, if you don't mind. And I got in love by your slides, okay? Because most of the things you kind of, you talked about was the things I do, and the things I do on the action pattern on Laravel Cloud too. So, maybe we start by showing the controller you showed at the beginning of your talk. What do you think?
For sure.
The huge controller thing that, and when I saw this controller in your talk, I was just thinking, how many of us end up with code like that looks like this, right?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Literally, especially when dealing with legacy code, it's kind of
Yeah.
insane how much we end up with code like this. Chat, by the way, how many of you end up with code like this too? I have wrote code like this. In my very early days of Laravel, I'm guilty, and I've done it.
I think everyone's guilty here.
That's right. You shared something very interesting on the next slides, which is literally trying to split this into different pieces. And one of the very first questions I had for you is, do you see this piece, which is authorization?
Yeah.
Where do you typically store this small piece of code?
It really depends. Like usually we have a form request where you put in the authorization. There's literally an authorization.
Authorized method?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I usually do that if it's really just applying to the controller where I use the form request. Sometimes I think it's really good to use the policies you have within the routing. So,
interesting.
For one of my projects, Steven, Security Steven, he did an audit for one of my projects. And he loved the way I put policies into the routing file because it really clearly defines, in terms of security, what people have access to in terms of the policy. But I do that just for the general things. If it just applies to the controller, I do it in a form request, or I use the gate facade, or the gate facade.
It's the gate facade, yeah. Personally, we actually at Laravel Cloud, we use the form request for this kind of situations. Yeah. However, we do find ourselves on some controllers like the index method, for example, which doesn't have a form request.
Yeah.
We end up using the gate itself directly on the very first line of the controller, which will be something like this, but using the gate facade.
Exactly.
So that was the first question I had, but I think it's kind of obvious what you are doing and what I'm doing right now. So myself, chat, I don't know about you, chat, let me know. I use custom form requests, but I typically rely on regular, the very first line of the controller if I don't have a form request. Yeah. Bird Potato is saying that he uses custom requests every single time personally, which is a little bit like I do. However, we have a question from Ego Benedict, which is asking, wouldn't a middleware help here? I don't think it would, but what do you think?
It really depends. I think middlewares should really be used, you can use a policy within the middleware, but how should I say that?
It doesn't feel the right place, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, middlewares are really for, as soon as you have something specific, it's either in the form request or the controller. And if you literally can use policies within the route file with can, double.
Absolutely.
So I would use that, I would do that instead of putting it into a middleware.
Interesting take from Bird Potato from Twitch is saying literally that he uses still custom requests on index methods, like verb get, which you know, I would find a little bit overkill just to have a custom form request, even for things outside of the post, outside of the delete. But I do get his point. David is saying the following: there is some value on straightforwardness of this code. Let me see, in second chat. In the way it is, yeah, true. Like literally just is kind of, you know, we can see everything right here, but undeniably. The second piece you had was, you know, on controllers like this is that you isolate this thing. I assume you wanted to explain that you changed this to form requests, right?
Yeah, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So you move this to the authorized method, in this second part to the rules method of every form request.
Exactly, pretty basic, to be honest.
Pretty basic stuff. Let me see if I have any questions here. I don't think I do. This is actually, you know, kind of obvious. One question that people make me all the time is if I should use underscores for keys of arrays.
Yeah.
I typically use underscores. I think it's okay. You think that too?
Same.
Yeah, I may too.
I mean, in the end, it's really important to stay consistent. It doesn't really matter if you use underscore or not. Just choose something consistent.
That's very important to say. Chad, I told you these guys all the time. Being consistent on the code is one of the most important things. Like you want to jump between controllers and find the same code or the same style of code all the time. Sometimes it doesn't matter where do you put the gate or where do you put authorization, as long as you do that consistently in the same way every single time. Indeed, nice. Teach 99. Thank you. By the way, Chet, today we are streaming about the action pattern. Thanks to Jonas.
You can say Joe.
Joe. Thanks to Joe, because he made a great talk about the action pattern on stage, and I couldn't not invite you to come here to talk about this. This is a topic that I do love, and I will make a resource in September, Chet. Don't forget about that. I literally need to fix here my shit. Jesus Christ, I cannot see anything. Igor is saying the following: consistently changing code styles per file, LOL. Consistently one of the reasons why I use custom requests anyway. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a consistency.
Consistency,
like,
yeah.
If you don't do it, don't do it. If you do it, stay consistent to it.
Yeah,
it's really simple.
That's a good point. So let's jump here into the section number 3, which apparently you are getting information from the request itself, right?
Yeah.
And where did you put this section on? Is the yellow one, right? Let me see.
This one is a section that I kind of didn't use within the talk, but if we scroll down, that was actually, I tried to keep it very simple within the talk, but that was the first, how do I say, architectural boundaries that I created. And I had like layers and then transitions into the layers.
Yeah.
And basically, that's kind of the inbound processing. It's the middleware stuff and the form requests, and not the form requests, the routing.
Yeah.
And in the contract validation, I had form requests and data transfer objects.
So to DTOs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and basically, I think this part that I didn't fully explain within the talk, but
I think you did, because I saw the DTO method.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, how do you do it exactly?
For me, this part is basically what a data transfer object should be used for.
Right.
More or
So
less.
how do you convert exactly information from a request to a DTO? Like you have a method and then you just have DTO classes?
I make a static method within the data transfer object that's just say from request, and then
Oh, interesting, Chat. So you basically have a method within the DTO class, and then you accept a request from the HTTP layer, and then you convert back to a regular object, instance of that DTO.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have a method within the form request that says to DTO, and I use then the DTO from request method within this one.
Okay.
Basically.
How many DTOs do you end up with?
It really depends on the project.
But every single, apparently like in your theory, every single controller method will have one.
Yeah, I mean, unless I just have like one or two, like if I just have, let's say a search controller, like where I search through data, and I have just a query parameter, then I don't use a TTO. It's just one parameter, I don't use.
So your threshold would be just one parameter, no DTOs, more than one DTOs already?
Kind of like that. I mean, it really depends on the use case, but that's kind of the decision.
By the way, chat, right on the chat, if we use DTOs, and even for things like one argument, for example, will you still use a DTO before sending it to the action? This is actually a very good question. So I have projects where we are using DTOs, and we have projects where we are using regular arrays.
Yeah.
So array shapes with PHP stan, which I think, like, they also work quite well. If you have PHP stan level max, you just can have like an array as an array shape, and it also works good. Puyapel, welcome, nice to see you too. Let's move forward. So this is literally the DTO section where you create a DTO out of all this, all this information. So I assume this last part would potentially be the action stuff, right? So if I move here,
basically either action or something that belongs into the model, basically.
right. So maybe let's move here into the slide where you basically moved everything. Here we go. This is the one I wanted to see. So you have the input part, which is the form request. You have the delegation, which will map the form request to the action itself.
Right.
Method injection for the action, I assume, too? Just like I do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And you have the service class. This is one of the most questions that I have all the time. Why would you use a service class? Can you give an example?
I mean, the best example is just accessing the API. REST
good call.
API.
Good call.
That's what I usually use service classes for. I mean, there is a package, I currently don't know the exact name, but there's a really cool package that helps you with connecting to external APIs, like REST APIs. But I just use it for very complex APIs. If I have a simple API with like 3 to 4 endpoints, I just write a service class.
So, and to make it perfectly clear, you inject the service class on the constructor of the action. So
One more?
yeah, so one example, imagine that you have an action with a name, create user.
Yeah.
Okay? Creating the user involves, potentially accessing the user model on the action itself to create the user on the database, but will also involve, sending an SMS to the user. So you would send an SMS through an SMS service that would be injected on the action itself, am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the way I do it too.
Yeah.
That's the way I do it too. Makes a lot of sense. So you call it utilities, but it's really like everything.
It's anything that is not living within your code. It can be like REST APIs, it can be CLI, like if you do a command, it can be using any of the facades of Laravel.
That's awesome. I make PT, thank you so much for the subscription. 5 months, you are absolutely awesome. Marko Stevic, what's up? This is not a book. This is the slides from Joe here at Laravel Live Denmark. We are literally in Denmark right now streaming, and this is his slides. So I found the slides very good, so I just, call him to do a live stream about this topic. Service classes for interacting with external services makes a lot of sense. I don't also use, for example, service classes to interact with my own DB. I don't think it makes any sense. I just do that on the action itself.
Exactly, yeah.
One question that I have for you here, which is a question that I get a lot on my chat too, is if you have database queries, so things like you use this for post requests, for deletes, I assume too. But if you have an index method that displays, a list of plants, where do you do that query exactly?
I just use Eloquent.
On the controller?
I would use an action. But
so you use the actions for querying things too?
It really depends. If the query is tightly coupled to a model and I need it frequently, I put it in as a method within the model.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't use I don't write a service for catching the data. For me, it belongs into the action.
Okay.
But again, if it's tightly coupled to the model and you need it many times over, then I put it into the model.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So the way I see actions for now is that I see actions in the way that things that mutate the system. So if it involves touching on a database, if it involves actually interacting with an external API, if it involves mutation, would be an action. If it doesn't involve that, I would just use Eloquent directly.
Okay.
But this is just the way I organize things.
But that's a good way to separate these kind of things. Yeah,
absolutely. By the way, Marco and a lot of people are asking for the slides link. Are you going to tweet about them?
I have resources at the end of the slides, but their slides are currently not in there, but I will add them.
Chat, let's do the following. I want to send you the link of Joey's Twitter. and he will basically tweet about this slide so you guys can access to this, okay? I'm gonna move back here into the slides again. Here we go. And yeah, so we talked about like how you validate information, how we map that to DTOs, how we send those DTOs to the handle method of the action, and how within the action we use services to interact with APIs. You have a very interesting thing, which is what happens if you want to reuse actions. You call it this orchestration. I think it's a very fancy term.
It's very fancy.
I think it's a very fancy term for something like this. Because I was like, wait, orchestration? You are going to lose me right now because I use actions within actions.
Yeah.
But then you show this slide and you were like, wait a second, orchestration will be the controller itself that calls the action. Now, that is something I do different from you. Maybe first we explain your theory behind this, and then I will explain mine.
Actually, in the talk, I said that's how I did it before, like let's say about 1 year ago.
Okay.
And then I kind of took the delegation part of the controller very seriously.
After?
Yeah.
Is this how I do it?
Exactly, yeah. Because I really want my controllers to really just delegate, like to take the input, check some stuff, and then delegate the input and whatever comes with the request towards an action.
Yeah.
And if it's more complex, I split up the actions and have one action to decide what happens after each other and check certain conditions.
So there is a lot to talk about here, a lot to talk about. Before we jump into that, Puya Paul is saying that to query the model potentially on an index method, he uses the builder class or a query class, or a scope, which honestly makes a lot of sense. I see myself doing that all the time. Dan is saying the following: great to see you, Noon. I love the action pattern. We do love too. The bromance on the action pattern, absolutely. Chat, if you just arrived, my name is Nuno Maduro, PHP and Laravel developer. I love what I do. I'm here with Joe today, checking the action pattern on action, actually, on these slides. If you enjoy my live stream, go to all the way down and subscribe my YouTube channel. You can also like this video. We have a lot more to come in real life live streams. I promise you, chat, and we have this here today. By the way, a lot of you ask me where the hell I got this t-shirt. Okay, so this t-shirt right here is on my shop. Go to shop.nunomaduro.com and you will find a bunch of this, a bunch of cool swag you can grab. So yeah, let's elaborate a little bit while we still have time before the ending of the break, which is soon. Talk about this orchestration situation. So apparently you are now doing it the way I do. So the way I do is that, let's assume you have, I think the more real example would be on Laravel Cloud, for example, where I have applications, but every time I create an application, it comes with a default environment for the application. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't allow customers to have an application without environments because it doesn't make any sense. So when you create your first application, that will create an environment too. However, you may actually have multiple environments afterwards. So the way I do it is that on this orchestration part you are showing here, this will be, so the controller is called application controller. Mm-hmm. The orchestration will have something like create application, which on the constructor of that will receive the create environment, because when you create an application, you will have to create an environment too. Which is exactly what you have here, right? Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, yeah, this is exactly how I do things, honestly. It feels really good, man. When did you inspire yourself on this stuff?
You?
You mean?
Yeah. I mean, I just check out, I will share the link on Twitter where I have all the resources I referenced for this talk. Yeah. And I mean, your YouTube channel is included.
Yeah, by the way, chat, there is a resource about actions in September. We are going to talk about all of this and much more. So be sure to check it out. We have a question from David Adams. How do you reason about validation and reusing an action in, say, console command? It's just trust the input? A great question here. Because sometimes you cannot have call actions without validating the input.
Yeah.
Like imagine, you know, that's a great question actually. Like
that's a really good question.
You would just validate again in a different from request, like how on the console, for example.
I mean, the validation within different parts of Laravel are really handled differently. Let's look at.
It's the very end slides, I think.
Yeah, it's basically the cool thing with this. I call it architectural not layers, but boundaries.
But here, for example, let's go here, for example.
Yeah.
Here you would have to validate what you are going to send to the action.
Exactly. The validation does not happen in the action for me.
So I like that too.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like that too, it's because I feel like validation behaves differently depending what it's called.
Yeah.
You know? So I absolutely agree with this. Validation should be outside of the action chat. That's just my opinion. However, you did have a slide here, which you lost me for a bit, which is this one, which is using events. What do you think about using events in Laravel apps?
I used them a lot, and then after some time, I hated it. And actually, there's a really cool YouTube video from Jeffrey Way.
Okay.
I think everyone knows Jeffrey Way.
Of course.
Like Laracast.
Oh yeah, everyone knows Jeffrey Way. Check laracast.com. It's a great website if you want to learn about everything in PHP. But yeah, you were saying?
Yeah. There's a really cool video called The Intermediate Developers Trap. I think that's how it's called.
Okay.
And he, like, one of his phrases where you feel good when you create events, like the event class, and then you feel even better when you delete them. And I love this phrase. And it's actually, this YouTube video is in my resources.
Oh.
And he talks about that events are not a bad thing, but overusing them can create a lot of confusion. And you can use, for events, you can use this pattern. So it's not that events are bad and you shouldn't use them, but always be careful using events because
they don't scale.
They don't scale.
They don't scale. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes things difficult to understand. Usually just watch the video from Jeffrey.
I will absolutely. But I have developed Pinkery with events. It was the worst mistake in my life. Because
Okay.
now every time someone creates a reply, it will just fire a bunch of different events.
Okay.
And I'm using like isDirty to kind of understand where it's coming from. It's just a nightmare. So I'm not a fan of events either. So I typically avoid them all the time, except when I'm broadcasting stuff to the UI.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? So we are going to see a lot of this on my actions resource coming out very, very, very soon. Cassia is asking about the observer in general in Laravel. I think it's the same problem in general.
Yeah.
Because the observer observes events. So
To be honest, I never used an observer.
yeah, it's the same thing as the event.
Yeah.
You know, it faces the same problems basically. Yeah. So, and I think that was it, man. I think your talk was very good, man. So congratulations.
I feel honored. Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations, man. Yeah, we talked about this, and we had the very last slide was just beautiful. Okay, so Marcus Aurelius said, I'm going to let you say this because this will become short. Go ahead.
I love the meditations from Marcus Aurelius. I love like the stoic and minimal mindset.
Yeah.
But I thought like I don't just want to end with a boring quote.
Yeah.
But that's what I kind of go. What I created was like I started a quote. I said like simplicity in all things is the highest good. Strip away the non-essentials, seek clarity in thought, and choose Laravel in your development stack. And it was just a little joke at the end.
It's absolutely awesome. And yeah, this is a perfect ending for our live stream. Chat, live streams like this will happen just literally all the time. So if you enjoy content like this, if you want to see more content in Denmark, go all the way down, click on the subscribe button and click on the like button. And yeah, simplicity in all things is the highest good, but just choose Laravel if you want to keep it simple. Chat, I love you all and catch you all around, all right? I'm going to be back. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I will. Catch you guys next time. Peace out. That was awesome, man.